Morning, everybody. How is everybody? Is everybody okay this morning? Michael, are you okay this morning?
I'm okay.
Did you have an interesting evening last night?
Actually, no, I didn't tell my kids about anything. I just let them be oblivious and just watched the storms go through.
Watch David Payne. Yes. So it was a little rock and rolly, and then we had one kid who was actually out kind of in the middle of it right as it happened, and he was scaring me because I was like, where are you? Are you okay? And then, of course, David was trying to sleep through it. Good morning, Julia. Yes, one of the kids said something like, oh, I think it was Betty. She said, I'm kind of scared. And the electricity's gone out. And I'm like, everything will be okay. And she goes, where's Dad? And I said, well, he's watching the inside of his eyelids.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's sort of unflappable about that stuff. And there's kind of, in a way, it worries me because one day that thing's going to happen.
One day there's a fire coming down the driveway.
Bingo. So I'm like, well, the fire came down the driveway. Who's to say we're not going to get a tornado down the driveway? So chop, let's pay attention here. So I don't know, but we didn't have, I'm telling you, I've never been to Vietnam, but if our backyard doesn't look like that, I can't even get into the garden. It's like I need a machete, to get into the door. I just want it to stop. We got 4 or 5 inches, I think, this morning. Wow. Flooded the porch again.
Wow.
So, love you, Jesus, but can you turn the spigot off for just a while? I mean, just like a whole month. I still have water draining down the hill on the other side through one of the pens. And it was doing that even 2 days after it quit raining. That's how much water there is in the ground.
Yeah.
Woo! So anything exciting going on with you?
Nothing major in the vein of what we're going to talk about today. I just want to throw this in there for you because you probably haven't seen this. But 7 different states are suing BlackRock and Vanguard and some of these in State Street, some of these huge funds because of their massive link to funding all the climate activists. So they're
way.
They're the direct beneficiary of all the climatism of everything. So at least some of these states, and Texas is one of the states, but this just came out about 7 days ago or so. They filed suit. And so anyway, I thought
who all is doing it? I'm curious because I haven't seen that. That is very cool, actually.
Yeah. It's been kind of, I didn't realize that. I heard someone else talking about it the other day, so I had to go look. But yeah, you've got all those big, institutional people funding all of the activism across the board for years and years and years. So that's because they're
here's what I've always wondered, and I mean, maybe you would know about this, and I don't know about this. Remember we busted up AT&T, and it was all antitrust stuff. Remember? Yeah. You can't own all of these things. We have to let some people come in and be. So I've always wondered, how does BlackRock get to own 475,000 companies? Right. And so many of them have to do with food. Just saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does this happen? Why is nobody pushing back? I'm so glad to see that. So NeAnne has an idea though. So let's bring NeAnne in and see what NeAnne says. Don't giggle. What did you just say?
Good morning. I said Oklahoma needs to join that lawsuit. Everybody needs to contact Gettner Drummond and tell him to join in with Texas on that.
Yeah, and see, our viewers are so awesome. They know all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they know this stuff. But it's a good, I mean, so I don't think it was you and I that were talking about this the other day, NeAnne, but it was one of us were talking about the fact that why is it that Drummond's only response to anything is to send somebody out to destroy a pot farm?
Yeah. Yes, it wasn't me, but I understand. Well, because, he's cracking down. He's running on cracking down.
So, I mean, we have DAs not doing their job. We have
the
court system that's completely in shambles. I was talking to our friend Mary with Visit the other day. She's working on a story that she's going to do next Wednesday, so a week from Wednesday, about a child that was allowed, the DHS allowed a child into the custody of a gay man who apparently trafficked the child, and the child is now missing. Oh, where is Drummond on that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not you know me. I mean, I'm not a huge, let's go all grow pot. That's not me, but I want to know how come that's the only thing you're attacking, Mr. AG. Mm-hmm. There are way more problems, buddy.
He's not holding anybody else in the state accountable to the rules and regulations of the state, but
Oh, well, what's an AG supposed to do?
I know. Oh, well, but his job is not to prosecute people in the state. His job is to protect the state and the state entities. And when I called their office as a citizen, to complain about, local politicians not following the Open Meetings Act and such. Well, that's not really the job of the Attorney General. His job is to protect the state and the state leaders from, outside sources. Yeah. They're not there to protect the citizens, just so you know. That's not his job. His job is not to protect the citizens. So
me thinks that's probably not the correct definition.
I know, right? And so it is so I was told, if the citizens have a problem with it, then we have to file a lawsuit to hold them accountable because the government's not going to.
Well, so that's kind of an interesting thing that we have. You're saying this, and both of us are on the show this morning.
Right. Yeah. So anyway.
And what have we always said? How does this work? So taxpayers have to sue the government that steal our tax dollars and use those to fight us. How does that work?
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So tell us about the
yeah. Put that on. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I don't know that that's not. I don't know that Julia doesn't have something going there. So why don't, since we're talking about suing people, why don't we start out talking about suing people to let's back up. You and I are suing the government to make them do their job and follow the law.
Yes.
How bizarre is that?
Yes. Well, that's our only recourse because nobody else is holding them accountable.
So tell us about your lawsuit again, because we do need people to sign up to help you with that.
So our lawsuit in Garfield County is moving forward. We have a 2,400 acre. It started out as the advertising as a 5,000 acre solar complex going in the county. Now they're saying it's going to be 2,400 acres. They did not go through the proper processes to get approvals. They haven't gone through the proper process one time with any Oklahoma entity to get the proper approvals for this, but are building and nobody is stopping them. So citizens of Garfield County banded together to bring a lawsuit to ask the judge to make these county officials do their job and uphold the zoning that is set for our county. The county commissioners would not hold themselves accountable and do their job. The DA, we had reached out to the DA would not make them do their job. We reached out to Attorney General Drummond's office, and like I said, that's not their job, and so we had to file a lawsuit. Yeah, not my job. I mean, and when people tell me that's not my job, that's just one of the most irritating phrases that you can hear from somebody. But anyway, so yes, we filed our lawsuit in September. It is ongoing. Some people are confused, and I'll explain some of that here in just a minute, because I went to Wagner County and spoke at their county commissioner meeting 2 Mondays ago. And this last Monday, they had a meeting where their county commissioners actually denied an appeal for approval for a 5,000 acre solar complex there. Their county commissioners stood with the people, followed the process, and denied the appeal for the application.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question, though. There are people literally that you and all of us would not ask this question, but I've had it asked to me on several questions. So I'm going to ask it to you and see what you think. Why are we against solar again?
Why are we against solar? So
I'm not kidding. People ask that. And I think the problem is, NeAnne, the people who like NextEra and the others go to, they get the cha-ching things, in their eyeballs. And so that kind of tends to occlude the gray matter and the little zip of the electrons across the brain. Mm-hmm. But the other problem is, I really honestly think there's a group of people who just they either don't want to know, they're not really interested, it doesn't make sense to them. So please explain why we don't feel the need to litter a bunch of arable pasture land for solar panels.
Well, and one of the things that some people get confused also is we are not talking about personal solar for your home. We're not talking about people that want to, put solar on their home, and maybe you won't. I'll caution you, you won't save money. They'll tell you will, but you won't. So we are not opposed to people, using it in their private homes. We are opposed to solar complexes taking up thousands, if not millions of acres of prime farmland in Oklahoma. So if you look at the complex here in Garfield County, I went to the USDA. I asked him to show me the area where this is going to be, where it's proposed to be built, and they are building. And I asked him, do you designate this land? And he said, this area is designated prime farmland. not brown, not, okay. It is literally designated prime farmland by the USDA. The areas in Wagner County, the 5,000 acres in Wagner County, are also prime farmland. So the problem is they want to come into Oklahoma because we do not have regulations to oversee them. They have no oversight. There's no siting. There's no planning. The only protection that we have against these corporations right now are our county commissioners. So they're coming in here. They are deciding where to site it. They are deciding how big it's going to be. They are the ones talking to the landowners, not any authorities, not, the county commissioners, not the state, nobody. They're just coming in here, signing contracts with landowners and saying, hey, you can still farm it. You can still, you'll still own it. We'll just put these solar panels on there. We'll pay you money. And apparently they've told the people in Wagner County that they can still use it for agricultural uses while it's being used. And so I'm kind of confused. One of the gentlemen that spoke in Wagner County, kind of confused by what he said about that, because they literally come in and scrape off all of the topsoil, remove the topsoil to another location, put it in a mountain of dirt on another location, compact the ground, and then they drive their poles into the ground that will hold the solar panels. So there's no using this while it's in the solar complex, production.
Well, I didn't know that they scrape off the topsoil and that they compact it down. I mean, it makes sense because you don't want the things wobbling, and I get that. I mean, I can see that. Here was one of the, now tell me if I'm wrong, because I literally, I focus on so many things now. I'm spread all out. Was there not an argument or one, and I want to say it was Senator Murdoch, who talked about the fact that you could graze cattle under these things? Was that just me?
No, and there was a bill in the legislature this last session for school land, for CLO land, if you didn't read that bill. So what it was is they were going to require, if they leased CLO land, which is school land,
right,
to the solar complexes, they were going to require them to put them 8 feet in the air so that they could graze cattle underneath them.
Okay, so here's my question for you. How much grass grows in the shade?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Or in the extreme heat from, being under the solar complex.
So exactly what are the cows going to graze on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because they scrape off all of the grass. Now, here they have come back.
So they scrape off all the topsoil. Mm-hmm. So where's the grass going to grow? Even if they had topsoil under there, brought it back in and trucked it under. I know there's some shade grass, but I mean, it has to have some kind of, I mean, so I don't know how the grass grows in the shade. And like you said, with the heat and everything else, how is there? I mean, I'm no brain surgeon, but I can kind of put those things together. What is the matter with people?
Yeah. And they've tried it with sheep and it's not been successful with sheep either.
Well, trust me, sheep will only eat 3 things and that's it.
Right.
And then they look at you and go, and so where's the stuff I want?
And I don't know if you've watched cattle in the pasture, if they find something that they can, scratch their itches with, they get up there and they rub it and they'll rub and rub.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And cattle are sensitive to heat, and these solar complexes, the heat island effect increases the ambient temperature. And so if it's hotter around the solar panels than in a regular pasture where, you have regular moisture and you have grass and you have, wind and all of that takes care of that heat. I don't see how it would be beneficial for cattle because they are susceptible to extreme heats. So
let me throw up something Denise, your friend Denise said, our friend. She's my friend too.
Yes.
In Garfield County, the loss of crops on 2,500 acres will cause a huge loss to all the county ag-related businesses and their families. $1,368 per acre every year for the proposed lifetime of the solar industrial complex. $3.4 million in loss to our county per year. What are you making again from the solar farm? What are they offering you?
So when they came in, they promised $64 million over the 30-year life of the solar complex. So, they come in and brag to these counties that they're going to, they're going to pay so much ad valorem tax that they're going to build whatever they want to at the schools. It's for the children. The schools are going to get all this money from this ad valorem tax. So our complex was promised $64 million over the 30-year lifespan. And this is an approximation, obviously. This is before they protested in the courts and say, well, it's not worth that much. We shouldn't have to pay that much. And in Wagner County.
So finish the sentence. And so what did that do to the ad valorem then for the schools?
Yeah, so that's going to reduce the ad valorem for the schools, obviously. And that's exactly what they've done with the wind. These same corporations have done the exact same thing with the wind projects. In Wagner County, they had promised them $31 million over the 30-year lifespan. So that's $1 million a year.
Okay.
So according to one of our farmers here, like Denise said,
doesn't add up then.
No. So, but see, they don't bring in the opposite side, and the county commissioners only hear from the green energy scammers. We're going to bring in all this money, and so, but they don't sit down and do the math. And they, like we did, one of our farmers sat down and did the math. If people aren't buying seed, if they're not buying diesel, if they're not buying fertilizer, if they're not hiring people to, come in and harvest when it's time to harvest. And so, so if they're not offsetting what is happening, then, we will be at a net loss, but all they see is the money that the corporations are promising, $64 million in increased ad valorem tax over the 30-year lifespan.
Now, right. And as Denise points out, it doesn't go to the county businesses who depend on those crops. And then John says the dirty electricity, noise, heat will all deter the cattle or livestock from being in that area, which is, what we were talking about before.
And I don't know if anybody's done any studies. How many of your mamas are going to abort because of the electromagnetic, because of the heat? There's just so many things. And are the babies going to thrive even if they, are born? Are they going to thrive in that environment? It's just there's too many questions. I wouldn't put my cattle out there. Anyway, but nobody's doing the math.
Well, and speaking of math, so Dorn has a great question. I haven't thought about this. Have you looked into this?
Mm-hmm.
These school districts taking in renewable dollars are taken out of the state formula. So where did that money go? So if they have more ad valorem, because I know that happens in Luther because we have the Red Bed power plant,
right? And
Red Bed pays a certain amount of ad valorem. So what it does is it lowers the amount that the state
will pay,
gives Luther public schools for education.
Yep.
But think on this. We just gave public schools more money, $25 million, I think is what it was, more money again this year. That's a great question, Dorn. Where are these dollars going if all of these people are going in and going, oh, we have this ad valorem for you. So the state is continuing to rape us and steal our tax dollars while they're allowing these people to come in and rape the land.
Exactly.
I mean, so it sounds to me like we're pretty much getting raped. I mean, is that what?
And here's the thing. So they're promising all of this money to the county, right? It's going to go to the school. It's going to go to the county. You're going to be able to do all this stuff with this money. So $1 million a year divided up, if some of it goes to the schools and some of it goes to the county, It takes about $1 million to asphalt about a mile of streets. So how much is your county actually benefiting?
That's a good point.
You know, I mean, what is your county going to do with $1 million a year for 30 years? Is it really that big of a difference that we're going to destroy thousands and thousands of acres of prime farmland for $1 million? I mean, how cheap are we? We're going to whore ourselves out for $1 million a year, $2 million a year. Maybe we'll get 2 miles of asphalt. You know, that's, yeah. Every time I do the math.
Yeah, but hold on. But math is inconvenient.
I know. Well, the truth.
And you may be doing Common Core math. How do we know?
That's true. I do. Yeah, I do that. You know, that math that was done, you know, years and years ago by the Greeks and the Romans and whoever taught us.
No.
It's like 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. I mean,
we had history.
Simple. Yeah, I know. It's pretty simple, but none of the county commissioners, none of the people that are talking about the money coming in are talking about the flip side.
Well, like Denise said, how will that ground ever be productive again once you've removed? And back to your question a second ago, here's what John Boy says: administrative.
Have you seen, NeAnne? Have you seen? I just typed in grass and crops under solar panels. Have you seen what they have on that?
No.
Let me. This will
share the screen.
This is absolutely hilarious. Watch this.
It's mostly weeds around here.
Can you even get weeds to grow without topsoil, though?
Yeah, they've got weeds growing.
All right, look. New study published in the PLOS 1 by researchers at Oregon State College finds that grass and plants flourish in the shade underneath solar panels because of significant change in moisture. And as you come down here, unexpected reasons, farmers are planting crops. They've got their little agrovoltaic, arrays out here. And then, solar plus farming, they've got all these videos out. They've got, where's this one's got some animals underneath the panels there. Mm-hmm. They've got a funny one that I saw. They've got some, it's right here. You probably can't see it that well. They've got,
can you click on it?
Yeah, just a second.
Neglected pasture.
They've got cattle. They've got cattle underneath these panels right here.
You can tell right there.
Look at the grass.
Picture. That's an AI picture.
Look at the grass. Look at the grass right here. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny because they're rolling out. They're literally trying to, all the reasons that are fake. They're literally just rolling out. Oh, we've got this study. That an Iowa State study on there also. That was a joke.
Oh yeah. No, I mean they've got all kinds of stuff. I mean
that's just gaslighting, don't you?
Oh, it's absolutely 100%. Gaslight. I mean they call us NIMBY, obviously, not in my backyard, that we are afraid and we make up all of this information, and the information that we find on the internet is just not true or it's not correct, all this stuff. And they come back with all of these arguments. Well, we've done the research. We don't quote stuff that's not from, reputable research people. But one of the big things that we do talk about is the reduction in property value for your neighbor. And obviously every time we say that, they say that it's not true, that it's not going to change the property value for your neighbor. Now, this is a rural community, but we still have a few neighborhoods right around here. And there are very reputable sources for this: University of Texas, University of Rhode Island, University of North Carolina. There's an assessor from Kentucky that has done lots of research on this. And so those are the people that we quote when it comes time for this. They have their own third-party source that they hired and paid for. Their study shows that there is no significant reduction in property value. So they did their own study and they paid their own third-party source, and they found that there is no significant reduction in property values. So
do you know what that reminds me of? Because this happens all the time in
vaccine.
Oklahoma too,
Yeah,
is
well.
when an entity, a public entity, because we don't have the right laws in place. We'll have to have Cindy Bird on again and talk about this. But she's already talked about it once before. We don't have the right laws in place in Oklahoma. And so public entities can hire their own auditors.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, how does that work out?
What the mob did?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the vaccine corporations do, right? They hire their own third-party testers and say, "Oh, everything's just fine." Anyway.
Here's what we found.
That's
using
what
our own
Monsanto
people
did
about our own stuff.
Yeah, that's what, all of Monsanto did with Roundup. Everybody has their own third-party researcher. Anyway, so everything that we say. So let me get back to ours. So what happened with ours is ours went to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission because we have one, and they oversee the zoning 3 miles outside of the city between this, that's into the county, between the city limits and 3 miles into the county. Is supposed to help with urban sprawl, keep our county agricultural, how our county looks, how stuff grows in the county. That's what it was put in place for in 1963. Mind you, it hasn't been updated since 1963 here in Garfield County. Yes. So nothing's changed since 1963. Anyway, but that's the process. Our Metropolitan Area Planning Commission denied the application. So the process was they could either appeal to the county commissioners or reapply at a later date to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. The Metropolitan Area Planning Commission said they found their application to be deceptive and incomplete, and that was the main reason they were denying it, right? So they had two options: appeal to the county commissioners or go back with a new application. They did neither. They got a letter from the city of Enid, from the mayor and the city manager, that said, hey, we determined that you don't need to do that. You can go ahead. And our county commissioners did nothing to uphold the zoning regulations that they put in place in 1963. Nothing. We begged them multiple times. We had, meetings. We had, they did hold a public hearing. And after all of that, the county commissioners did nothing and allowed them to move forward with construction. So that's when we filed our lawsuit. Now,
okay, can I pull this up so people can refer to this?
Mm-hmm.
Oops, wrong one. Hold on. Hold on. I've got it up here, so it'll come up, I promise. There it is. Okay, now we've got it. All right, where did it go? There it is. Okay, there we go.
Yay, our website. Now, I'll compare that to what happened in Wagner County. So Wagner County had an application coming up several months ago, and I had some people reach out to me and ask me, hey, what have y'all, what has happened over there? Can you help us? So the people dug through their zoning. Wagner County, the whole county is zoned, right? So their county commissioners have a say over their entire county, not just a 3 mile band like ours do. NextEra, which is the same company that is in Garfield County, NextEra had an application before the Wagner County Planning Commission for a 4,600 acre, I think it started out as 64, but I can't remember which one their application said, but 4,600 acres. Their planning commission denied the application. I don't know I can't remember what their reason was, that it just didn't fit in what the county wanted, for their future, site for their counties. Anyway, so that was denied. So NextEra appealed to the county commissioners, which is the proper process, right? That's what they did. They appealed to the county commissioners. The county commissioners had it before them, and then they tabled it for a week or two. And then the county commissioners had it when it came up for them again. They said, you know what? We still need more time. They tabled it for 6 weeks. Well,
goodness.
Yeah, so that 6 weeks was due on June 9th. So on June 9th, they had it on their, let me make sure I have my dates right. Yeah, June 9th. They had it on their agenda again because that's when they had tabled it to. One of the commissioners was not going to be there that morning because they were having a county auction, where they're auctioning off their equipment auction. And he was in charge of that. So they decided to table it for one more week until all three of them could be present to vote. So this last Monday, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of it. It was, several of our friends were showing it live on Facebook. It came up again for the county commissioners. They had, they allowed public comment, which, by the way, our county commissioners have removed public comment from their agenda so that the public can no longer comment about this project. Yes. But the county commissioners in Wagner County allowed public comment. They were there for about 3 to 3.5 hours on this one agenda item. I think it was after 12 o'clock when they finally took their vote on this agenda item. They heard from both sides. They denied the appeal for approval. So that project, yes, we are very excited for Wagner County. Wagner County commissioners did a really good job. It was touch and go there for a minute because nobody knew what District 2 commissioner was going to do. In the end, he voted it down. So District 2 and District 3, I believe, voted it down. District 1 commissioner voted for it. But yes, but that's the proper process. That is the process that the people in Garfield County did not receive. And their county commissioners stood with them and voted it down. So it's probably not the end of the fight in Wagner County, but it is a really good step forward because their planning commission denied it and their county commissioners denied it.
Well, how can that not be the end, though? I mean, where else do you go after the county commissioners?
There's more.
And let me point out something. If these people, and I'm going to use NextEra since we're talking about them specifically, and they have tons of contracts in Oklahoma. If these people were really as benevolent as they like to portray themselves, we're just here to make green energy and to help your communities.
Provide.
If that were the case, if people didn't want them, wouldn't they just give up and go, okay, well, no, I understand you don't want it here. We'll go find someplace else. But they don't do that. They press and keep in there and go, well, I don't care if you want it or not, up yours. I mean, so I don't see these people as being benevolent. I mean, they're for their investors. That's who they're for. And they can say that they're for the community and we're just here to provide money and blah, blah, blah. But they're really for their investors, period, end of sentence.
Well, and the way that they're for their investors is they are looking at collecting as many federal and state subsidies as they can.
Exactly.
And that's how they pay their investors. So not only are they destroying the land in Oklahoma, they are using our tax dollars to do it. And they do receive federal and state subsidies for these projects. And so we are paying for it on both ends.
Yeah. So let me throw up some comments. Let me say this first. We've got a nice audience on. Please take down, I know the web address doesn't come up when we share our screens, but you can find Garfield County Conservation Coalition. So go do that. And then if you'll notice on the website, see right here where it says contribute now, that's where you need to go to help with their lawsuit. So this website is super easy to navigate. So you want to go again, Garfield County Conservation Coalition, contribute now. right there.
And we would appreciate any contribution to this. This is the first solar suit that has been filed in the state of Oklahoma. So we may be setting precedents, and we are confident that our argument will be upheld in court. And so it will set precedent for the state. And this is the first one that the citizens have filed to fight back against these companies. This is a David versus Goliath kind of fight. And it's going to take, neighbors standing shoulder to shoulder to win this fight. And if anybody is able to make any form of contribution, we would be extremely grateful. And we do have the platform that we use for our contributions. You do not have to pay a fee. You can if you want to, but it's not required. So you can put 0 in that fee part when it comes up, and we get 100% of the money. And 100% of our money goes to our attorneys and legal fees. None of our volunteers get paid anything. So so it would be very helpful. We would much appreciate it if anybody's willing to contribute.
So I'm going to leave that up for a little bit, but I want to go back to some comments. Dorn said, I haven't heard a single word from a single politician or legislator praising these billion-dollar projects being planned in their own districts in their campaign mailers or legislation publications. That's so true. I hadn't really thought about that. But if they're so great, why aren't you going around stumping on that? I created a 4,500 acre solar complex in my district.
We love it.
My property rights trump your property values. If you don't believe me, ask them elected elites. Again, ask them elected elites. We
That's
find
true.
ourselves to be, this makes me laugh because Jill says this all the time, but it's so true. We find ourselves to be not guilty of any wrongdoing. It's so right. I mean, that's how they do this. That's why.
That's true too.
Yeah. Paid consultants give desired results of the corporations writing the checks, and that needs to be probably on a billboard somewhere. Except would people have the thinking skills to work that out to make that make sense anymore? I'm really wondering about that.
Right.
So the city leader or commissioner is corrupt and then under their thumb. And, I don't even, I'll be honest, Catherine, having been an elected official myself, I don't even think it's that so much as, so I was the mayor of a small town. When you have to, we were the first city council to raise public utility prices in, I think it was like a full decade. So even though our town had expanded and our water, we were still having to pay for water to pump and do all these things, our rates were still extremely low and they weren't actually paying for what we were using to provide water to people. So when you come in after a decade and you say, guys, we're going to have to raise the water rates, what do you suppose happens?
Well, nobody's happy about that.
Bingo. So when they come in droves and they're mad about it, well, I just, and it's so easy when you're standing there with people yelling at you to go, okay, well, we won't do it. Right. It's so hard to say, well, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I don't like it for you either. But unfortunately, you can either have water or don't have water. But if we're going to have water, we have to raise the rate. So there you go. But people don't want to do that. And so I don't even know that it's necessarily so much that they're bought off as that they're just weak-kneed. They won't stand up to do what's right because it's a small community or these people with the money, NextEra, or fill in the blank. They're the ones who are on them. Well, we need to do this and this is good for your town. This is good for your town. This is good for your town. You know what I'm saying? So I tend to think it's more, they're just weak-kneed.
And here's the thing to them being weak-kneed. NextEra will threaten to sue them if they don't get their project approved. I mean, and that's a threat that they have made and done in other states. Now they've lost in other states. Kansas, they lost to Kansas over a wind, turbine field. And that's what I told our county commissioners, because our county commissioners, well, if we don't approve it, we'll get sued. I'm like, well, your job is not to approve it because you won't get sued. Your job is to uphold the oath that you took and do what's best for the people of your county, whether or not you get sued. Let them sue you. The people in the county would support you. But that is their fear. And like you said, they are weak-kneed. They don't have a spine. They don't have other things that I won't mention because there might be children on. But I would. So to electric fees, to your fees, they keep telling, your fees will go down. BS. Let me be capital B, capital S. Your electric fees will not go down when they build a solar complex in your county. This electricity, the very small amount of electricity that will be produced will not be for the people in your county, and it will not be to reduce your electricity costs, right? Your electricity costs are going to keep going up because the state of Oklahoma is allowing these electricity corporations to continually increase our bills. And we just saw a huge increase a month, 6 weeks ago? $13 a month.
And guess who's one of the highest subsidized private businesses in Oklahoma? OG&E, just to let you know.
And that's who our provider is. So back to property rights, right? Because property rights is probably the main argument that the people that have leased argue in front of the county commissioners, right? Well, I leased, I should be able to lease to do whatever I want to on my property. They're going to pay me money, right? They are the only ones in the county that are set to make money if they get paid what their lease says. But here's our argument to property rights. Our ask for regulating solar complexes in the state of Oklahoma is not about property rights. We are asking the state of Oklahoma to come up with common sense regulations for the corporations that are coming in here and destroying our prime farmland. The regulations would be for the corporations, not for property owners. Because we all know that the property rights argument is bunk to begin with. You cannot do what you want on your property. I don't care what you say. You have a government regulation for everything that you want to do, except for building a solar complex. But we're not asking on regulations on property owners. We're asking for regulations on the corporations that are coming in here, collecting our taxpayer money through subsidies and destroying our prime farmland. That is the argument. And these leasees will stand up in front of the county commissioners, the legislation, and well, you shouldn't be able to tell me what I can. Well, we're not. We're telling these corporations how they have to perform in our state. That's what we're asking for. And last week when you were talking to Representative Bowles, he said something about standards for leases. I think it was transmission. I think he was talking about transmission lines. They were wanting like state standards for leases, right? Nobody has read these leases that these corporations are coming in here for these solar and wind projects. Nobody has looked at these standards. I can tell you the solar complex leases state that these corporations have the right to interfere with, oh gosh, now I've just lost it.
Transmission.
The transmission of information, your web and your cell phone and that kind of stuff. They have the right to interfere with that. That's what it says in your neighbor's lease. So if they're interfering with that, is it going to affect you? And that's one of the arguments that the people in Wagner County are asking, because they have a citizen whose daughter is required to wear a heart monitor at all times because she has a severe heart disease, and it transmits information over the web, over the air, so that the hospital can watch her heart at all times. And when she has a problem, they can just send an ambulance right away, whether they're asleep, whether she's awake, So if they're interfering with this transmission, is her heart monitor going to be able to transmit to the hospital? So where is the state on the standards for what they can and can't do with the transmission of radio waves or, internet
Bluetooth
waves,
or
anything? So we need those leases to be looked at and make sure that they are not infringing on the rights of other Oklahomans just because one property owner is signing with a corporation.
That's a great point. Let me catch up with some of these comments because there were some good ones. And Julia says, and we've asked this before because this is one thing that we talked about when we had Great Green Goblin, no video in it, and here talk about how, we in a public meeting, we couldn't make the information public. So I guess they, like Julia says, they just make up new rules.
So in the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act, it states that public comment is not required by the Supreme Court. But if it is allowed, then the public is allowed to say what they want to say. So it doesn't break the statute, but like she said, it shows who they are and what kind of leader they are if they don't want public comment.
Very well said. Good job. Absolutely. 100%. Dorn says, how can we ensure these companies have, now this is a good question. How can we ensure that these companies have good insurance to be held liable if a natural disaster like a tornado shreds a solar complex of glass and strews debris all over non-participating landowners? That is an excellent question. I mean,
and there's no regulation for that. And that should be one thing that the county commissioners demand before they approve anything. They can require a bond, but there's no regulation for that. Yep.
I just had to throw that out because he's always got one. If the county or the state, and this is a great point, because you and I have talked about this so often, and people get their backs up and they get all agitated and they stomp around. Well, I live out here because I don't want any zoning. I'm not going to have any zoning, right?
I know. Yeah.
I mean, and you hear them all the time, and they're crusty old dudes half the time that sound just like that. Sorry to paint a picture, but I'm just saying, in my experience, and they stomp around in their boots. But here's the problem. Like John says, if the county or the state decides that there's no zoning, even you, Mr. I don't want any zoning, are going to end up with something next door to you that you don't want. So think that through.
And let me just say,
or you sit around and growl at people.
Exactly. And let me say, because, it was Craig County that was they got it on their ballot to zone their county, I believe. And they were going around, and obviously these corporations are going around saying, oh, well, you don't want them to zone you, blah, blah, blah. Wagner County is zoned. As far as I know, they don't have any trouble doing anything, any agricultural endeavor that they want to. 3 miles of Enid were zoned. Nobody that lived in that area even knew it was zoned until we started this fight.
Interesting.
Right? So nobody had been stopped from planting, from grazing, from anything agricultural, because the agricultural is protected in statute. When there is zoning, ag zoning is protected in statute. So nobody even knew that there was 3 miles of zoning until we started this fight.
See, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, nobody had been stopped from doing anything agricultural.
Well, and Denise, to follow up on what you just said, Denise's point is wind turbines and solar panels are commercial or industrial products, not agriculture. So zoning then needs to be changed in order to be able to do this. And she has a follow up here. Could zoning apply only to the specific properties that are leasing to wind and solar? And I don't know about that. I think that would be a county commissioner issue for sure. Good question.
So each property that is leased would have to be changed to an industrial zone for the solar panels.
Interesting. Okay. But I mean,
and they don't adjoin. Most of them don't adjoin. So it would be spotty zoning, which you try to avoid spotty zoning, right? That's one of the things.
Yeah. Because then otherwise, what's the point of zoning? Well, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's what you're trying to avoid with zoning in the first place. So that's kind of dope. Dorn was saying the petroleum industry used the property rights argument when fracking was an issue. I guess I don't remember. I'd have to have somebody and Dorn says, zoning is 100% what we need to save agricultural. I'm going to go back to this issue. So many times, all three of us, oh my goodness, for sure, all three of us have been said to be wearing tinfoil hats.
Oh, of course.
Crazy. We're just making this stuff up. We're overreacting. I mean, you can it's an on and on and on prod. They just keep coming up with stuff. But here's my question to those people who want to say these things about us. Have you really thought about what's going to happen when we simply don't have any more places to grow stuff? Do you eat? Do you put food down the pie hole? Is that a requirement for you to live?
Bugs. Bugs and like it.
I still, well, I was going to go even worse. I was going to up you one even worse. So I still remember when I was a kid, I'm not kidding. I remember this. I remember watching the movie Soylent Green. I remember I didn't really understand the movie. And I was, because I wasn't that old at the time, probably teens. And I remember but I watched the whole thing. And then it wasn't until the end. And I still remember Charlton Heston standing on the top of that mound of whatever that the plant was under, and he was standing there, it was raining, and he goes, Soylent Green is people.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
You have to watch that movie. I remember at the time, and even though I didn't really understand the rest of the movie, and I was only in my teens at the time, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's totally disgusting. They're eating people.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny, with all that extra energy production and the way technology's going, I mean, we won't need to grow anything anymore. We'll just 3D print food here before too long. You'll just have a little 3D printer for food at your house.
Like they have on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll just go and it'll just materialize from.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know. John says change for zoning. Zoning causes change, and people don't like change. You know what? And I'm with you on that, John Boy. I think that is very true. I do think some of that is change, and I'm finding out as I age. Old people don't like change. I don't like change. I mean, I'm not that much over 60, and I'm already like, stop it. Back when I was a child, we didn't do that. So I really get that. I do think you get to a point where you're kind of like, I don't know, that's scary. If we do that, what's going to happen? But then I also think if we're going to think that way, then we also need to be thinking, golly, what's going to happen if we do put all of our agricultural arable land under a solar panel or a wind turbine or a a data center or a lithium mining battery. I mean, let's think about that then, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget the carbon capture, Jenny.
And the carbon capture. Well, and here in Oklahoma in December, and I still need to get an updated list or a number. In December, we were told that there are over 100 applications in the Southwest Power Pool process for solar complexes. So if there's 100 and they're averaging 2,500 acres, I mean, you're already at 250,000 acres of farmland in Oklahoma. I mean, they're not going away as far as we know until Trump stops the subsidies completely and they can stop bilking money out of the people of the United States. They're not going to go away. But we stand to lose hundreds of thousands of acres of prime farmland in Oklahoma. And that's what we're fighting with our lawsuit. And that's what the people in Wagner County are fighting to save that farmland. And one of the farmers got up, and sometimes I don't have as much mercy as, other people do. I'm low on the mercy scale when I take my biblical, test of, what my good things are. Anyway, one of the farmers got up there and stood up and said, well, y'all weren't there when we had a drought and I had to make a farm payment, and all this stuff. And I have a chance to make money off. And I'm like, okay, sell your land. Sell your land. Sell your land to somebody else that wants to make that endeavor, to try to make a living in farming. Don't get up there and tell me that I wasn't there when you couldn't make your farmland when there was a drought, your farm payment when there was a drought. Sell your land to somebody younger who wants to preserve the land. Why did you buy your land to begin with? Was it because you loved land and loved to farm? Now, pass that on to the next generation, because filling it with solar panels is going to destroy it for the next generation, and nothing will ever be produced on that land again. Do you love your land? Is if your pocketbook is your biggest concern, then your land is worth money. Sell your land, fill your pocketbook, and then let somebody else do that, because there are people in the next generation that want to be farmers and ranchers. They will not have that opportunity in the state of Oklahoma because we won't have the land for them to do it.
Well, and to follow up on what you just said, you can't just say something like, well, I'm not going to worry about that now. We can stop it later. You can't. The land is ruined. You can't put that topsoil back on there. You can't, have Superman fly opposite the rotation of the earth and turn back time. It doesn't work that way.
Remove the chemicals. Yeah.
You simply, that isn't going to happen. So you can't sit back and go, well, we'll figure it out later. You can't figure it out later. Soylent Green is people. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. And I understand that there's hardships and people, go through, but if you have something of value and you're going through a hardship, you have the opportunity to sell your valuable and, remove yourself from the hardship. And I know people are going to say that that's hard of me or not merciful or not, but I mean, yeah, you have something of value, you can sell it.
So I love the fact that Catherine says, proud tinfoil hat wearer. Can't offend any of us with nose names anymore. All my conspiracy theories have come true.
They really have. Yes.
What is that? The test for conspiracy is wait 15 minutes. The same dark money flyers used to fight the zoning vote in Craig County were the same campaign flyers that were fighting Representative Jim Shaw. That's concerning, and we need to work on that, Dorn, so we can get that solved, because that's very concerning. And Julie goes back, and again, I don't want to argue with you. I just don't. I mean, if I'm not going to make you see your level of stupidity, then I'm going to back off. But just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not happening. And what Julia says, the goal of the globalists is depopulation. And I know so many of us, we fight this because we're good people. And you're like, people don't really think that way. That can't be the way people think. Yes, it is.
It's evil.
There is, if you believe in Jesus, you have to believe in the opposite as well. Mm-hmm. And if you don't think that's what we're seeing right now, then I really suggest you to get a book. Comes in many sizes. It says the Bible on it, and just thumb through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's absolutely what's going on. I mean, we were, again, when I was talking to Mary yesterday from Visit, we were talking about how can these things be happening? How can people not care for children? How can people just say, oh yeah, this is going to be great. This complete solar installation can cover up all of this grass and everything's going to be fine. The population is only growing. We need more food to feed people, but let's stick this glass bunch of nonsense here that doesn't generate enough electricity to even make up for the fact that we've taken that arable agricultural land off the table. I mean, I don't, please educate us on who's benefiting from the secret mitigation credits. Do you know about that?
I think Michael would probably have more information than that on that. I haven't, the carbon credits, the mitigation credits, all of that.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that much about that. I was actually looking up, since Julia brought up that depopulation, in the most current Bilderberg meeting, which was, just recently, last month.
Yeah.
They one of the agenda items on there was actually migration and depopulation. I mean, that was literally one of the main things they were talking about, was depopulation.
Wow. Did they come up with a number?
Well, I think they had it on the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, what are the Georgia Guidestones again? You got to tell me about that.
Well, they got torn down. Remember I told you about that, Jenny?
Yeah,
you didn't know about it. Anyway, Georgia Guidestones, someone back in I think it was the 70s, some anonymous donor, R.C. Christian, who they ultimately think is probably Ted Turner. I don't know. I'm not going to go down on that.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway,
I did. Yeah.
It was like an alternative 10 Commandments, and like one of the number one deals, I don't know if it was number one, but it was one of the main deals was, keep the population at 500 million or less, the world population, it's all about preserving nature, becoming one, with whatever. And you can look them up, but someone actually destroyed those or tore them down, or they had to take them down like a year or two ago.
No, I think they destroyed them.
Yeah, somebody did.
So Jenny, one of the things that I wanted to visit this morning was the Reuters article, and I don't know if it's Reuters or Routers, however you say the
Reuters.
Reuters. I say
none of the above.
Yeah, right. That doesn't surprise me.
Don't say it like you're from Oklahoma, NeAnne.
I know, that doesn't surprise me. So Reuters.
I think I have it up here, but tell me which one you.
So the Reuters article that came out a couple of weeks ago about the China kill switches and the
that's right.
And the radio.
Hold on, let me bring it up.
The communication radios that they were found inside in Chinese constructed inverters and batteries, right?
Yeah, hold on.
So while you're looking that up, I don't know if y'all have had a chance to watch the Grid Down Power Up special that Newsmax did with, what's his face that played Reagan? Anyway, he was the guy on there. So it talks about how susceptible our grid is to foreign actors coming in here and just knocking it out, right? And we've known this since the 70s and 80s, but pretty much the federal government has done nothing about it because of the...
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes. because of the lobbyists in DC. It's what the Grid Down Power Up show said, is the lobbyists in DC keep killing all of these infrastructure bills that would protect our grid from foreign actors. Well, they haven't done it yet. So one of the concerns that the people in Garfield County, and me especially, had when this solar complex was proposed was how close it is to Vance Air Force Base.
Right.
We are one of the leading pilot training bases in the United States. We only have 3 left. They've shut down the others. They shut down 2 others. So we only have 3 where we can train our pilots, right? Well, this solar complex is going to be very near Vance Air Force Base and very near one of the large transmission stations here in Garfield County. The batteries that they are using are from China. We don't know about the inverters yet because they won't tell us. And I sent this article to Representative Dobrinsky, and Dobrinsky communicated with NextEra and asked them where the inverters were coming from. And they said, oh, we don't use Chinese-made inverters. But they have not told him yet what inverters they are using. But but
if you just say I'm not using those, then that stops the discussion, right?
Right. But I will tell you where it says undocumented cellular radios also found in Chinese batteries, that second sentence right there.
Make that a little bigger, will you?
I know 100% that the batteries are from China.
How do you know 100%?
Because one of them was parked in a parking lot in Hennessy waiting to be transported down here, and I made my husband pull over. We took pictures of it. So it was in public. So,
But they put them in public, and then they say, but they're not. Like, we're too stupid to be able to go take a picture and go, you mean this Chinese battery right here that you said we weren't using? It's the craziest thing. At Storybook Farms on Facebook, she found a data center that had cropped up in Chandler, and right there on the side it says China. I mean, it's not.
No, it's not.
I think our public schools are just toast, but I'm sure people can actually still read China. That's not that hard of a word. It's actually phonetic. Right.
I know. So we're waiting.
I just want to point out real quick, not to interrupt you, NeAnne. I just want to point out this is a pristine agricultural environment here. Look at the amount of agriculture going on around these solar panels, and I mean, you probably can't see the sheep and stuff underneath these, but I'm sure they're there.
Mm-hmm. Sheep on one side and cattle on the other.
I mean, look, this doesn't look like it's very productive out here where it's all green, but this is agrovoltaic excellence right there.
Well, and one of the things that when I spoke at the county commissioner meeting in Wagner County, I asked them, I pretty much begged them to come to Garfield County and see for themselves what one of these looks like before they would approve it for their county. I offered to give them a tour.
So I want to show you something because this will
because if you haven't seen what it looks like and the destruction that it brings, I mean, why? Oh, and the other thing in Wagner County, NextEra is refusing to give them the environmental impact study. So they're asking the county commissioners to approve this without seeing an environmental impact study and what it will do for their county.
Well, what's the like? Go ahead, Jen.
I just want to show this really fast because to me this illustrates this point in its entirety. Okay, so this is I heard you because it's crazy. So this is a company called Lightfield Energy. they're now getting into data centers because so many of these solar places now are now switching over to data centers. So this is their new thing, is they're getting into data centers. But when they started out as a solar installation, that's what they were doing. Look at what they have literally taken over these farms, James Farm, and turned them into this. And they're proud of it. It's on their website. Look down here, Dalton Hay Farm. Well, screw you, cows. There's no more hay for you because the new Dalton Hay Farm looks like this. And then Olmsted Produce. So a place that was actually growing produce is now going solar. And what about Bateman Dairy? Gosh, that looks like it's going to support a whole lot of cows.
Wow.
Looks like something out of Road Warrior.
Yeah, no kidding. Say
that again.
I said it looks like something out of Road Warrior, Mad Max or something. Literally.
But I thought this illustrated so beautifully the fact that we keep talking about they're taking over arable farmland to do this. And people go, no, they're not. Well, look at our friends here at Lightfield Energy who are proud to say, yep, we just wrecked Dalton's Hay Farm and Olmsted Produce and Bateman Dairy. What the heck? It's
Jenny, the arrogance just to keep the name, Hay Farm, Produce, Dairy, just to keep the name attached to it, not even to put a new name on that or something. I mean, come on.
Because they're proud of it. They have wrecked arable farmland for this. Wow. Let me see you. Hey, anybody, can you tell me how to eat a solar panel? I mean, maybe it's like charred and I just don't know how to cook it properly. Just saying.
I know. If you haven't seen what one of these does, then you shouldn't be voting on it.
You think?
Yeah. But take the time. And that's what I was asking the county commissioners. Take the time to actually go see one in person before you vote on this and see if it fits within the planning that you have for your county.
Oh, there's some other good comments. Let's throw these up. On the other hand of that farmer in his drought, where was he in handing out the abundance of gains in the years he made monies? Ooh, you got a little biblical there on me, John. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Denise says 15-minute cities, and I think that's true. It's also in the WWF's platform, Depopulate Humans and Animals Both. They want fewer people to say no to the UN, WHO, and WEF, which I think there's something to that. Surviving in this society means having people look you dead in the eye and say, nah, after you've proven your
Nuh-uh.
It's true. Come on.
I know, it really is.
One of the commissioners got defensive and tried to twist NeAnne's words of what she said. When was that? Tell me about that.
That was when I was speaking. So when I shared information from Garfield County and invited them to come to our county, and then Jim Shaw spoke, and then he looked at Jim Shaw and he said, I thank you for wording it that way instead of attacking me, and this and that, and making it sound, I've done lots of research, but people make it sound like I don't. And so I wanted to make it extremely clear that I was not attacking him. So I stood up at that point and I said, if my words came across as an attack or it was not how I wasn't intended, and I apologize for that, but I do implore you to continue doing research.
See, you're nicer than me. I would have said, can somebody bring this guy something to wipe up all of the blood where his capillaries burst from his thin skin?
Well, I didn't want to harm their case and give him any reason to hold bad juju.
Yeah, but that's what these people do. I mean, they act like
I know
they're supposed to be lauded and put up on a pedestal. Oh, thank you, Mr. County Commissioner. Oh, thank you, Mr. City Council member. Bull crap. People, you work for the people. And your job is to go, okay, well, wait a minute. Is this, I don't know how it's good for the people to take up all of our arable farmland with stuff that can't be farmed.
Right. I know. Yeah.
So this is a good one too. These poor farmers will double dip the taxpayers by taking both renewable payouts and USDA farm subsidies, all the while playing Mr. Farmer driving 400K tractor and 100K pickup trucks. These poor farmers, and I hate to do that and be snarky like that, but it's so true. And it's even worse than that. So I was looking on one of the posts that we made on Rope Report about one of these issues, whether it was wind turbines or solar. And you know how you'll have every once in a while the laughing face emoji pop up, and I always want to go to see who thinks it's funny, right? So one of them was this young girl. She's in her 30s, and I went to her Facebook page and looked her up, and she is all about the sustainable farming, WEF. And if you look, it's not the which of the farmers, it's not the USDA, it's not an actual governmental organization, it's one of the farming associations, has the UN Global Agenda logo or something similar as its logo, and she had that up there on her profile because she's all into ag, and it's these people that are killing us. I mean, these little people who are younger people who have been indoctrinated in the BS at the college level, if not at the public school level,
right?
And they come out and think, they're hot stuff and they have an answer to every single question you can possibly come up with. And who are you idiot old people to stop and think about how we're doing business? I mean, it's just... It is bad. It's gotten way too far. They don't have any problem taking public subsidies. They don't see a problem with it. They think it's what they're entitled to that because farming is so hard. I mean, how do you break past that?
I know. It's been ingrained for a long time.
So you've literally got people who should be farming these properties, who should be doing this work. And they're like, oh, well, I can make more money off the solar thing. I can make more money off the wind turbine. Okay, well, I'm with you. If you don't want the property to sell it to somebody who wants to farm it, you don't have to give it away. Sell it to them at market value, but get rid of it and give it to
our next generation will have an extremely hard time finding property to purchase because the price of land has gone up so much. And now that these people are leasing with solar complexes, they won't even be able to find land to lease to either farm or, ranch cattle.
It's true. I'd love to. If I could.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not security. You mean secretary.
Secretary.
We just tripped up a few letters there.
No.
Okay, I'm going to put back up I want to put back up the website so that people know exactly where to go to get you, to help you, and explain it one more time before we get out of here today.
Yes. So we are collecting money through our coalition to help the plaintiffs with the attorney's fees. Our lawsuit was filed in September. NextEra has filed 2 motions to dismiss, and the judge has denied both motions. So we are moving forward. We are moving forward to a pretrial date in September. This is the first solar complex suit that has been filed in Oklahoma. So we are paving the way. And praying to be successful so that we will set precedent for the state of Oklahoma so that others can point to our case when it comes to their counties. Because with 100 of these in the process of being approved through Southwest Power Pool, I can promise it's coming to your county, right? Unless the spigot is turned off at the federal level and these subsidies go away, these companies, these corporations are not going to stop targeting our Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has made it so easy for them to come in here and do whatever they want, no matter what the people want. So that's why we're collecting contributions. Anything that anybody can give is appreciated. And our website is stopskeletoncreeksolar.org. And we do have the contribute, and you do not have to pay the fees. Like I said, Zephy is set up for 501c corporations, and so they don't charge us a fee. It's optional if you want to give them a fee. And so it's a pretty easy way to contribute. You're always welcome to come to our meetings. We have a meeting once a month. If anybody needs me
do you get to speak?
Oh, yeah. Of course I do. But if anybody needs me to come speak, to your county, if you find out that one of these projects is coming to your county, please reach out. I am more than happy to help how I can. Speak to your county commissioners, invite your county commissioners to come to Garfield County. I will give them a tour personally of the site that we are having to deal with that's under construction right now.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing, because I just don't believe that people, and especially people who live in cities, this just doesn't resonate with them, because they're like, well, what do I care? I'm not going to have a solar panel farm next to me. I mean, they don't really get it. But let's stress this again. It's not about you having a solar panel installation in your backyard. It's about you not being able to get the food you want to get when you want to have it.
And for your children and grandchildren. It's going to be even harder for our grandchildren than it is for us. And aren't we supposed to do what we can to protect the next generation?
Well, it used to be. We were.
I know.
So
that's why I do it.
Well, and we honestly, we appreciate you so much, and everybody else who has to sue the government to get the government to behave and be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So we have to push back. We can't just let the steamroller run over. And I know there are people who say, and sometimes I say it. I mean, NeAnne, you and I have had conversations like this before, where you're like, I just don't know if I can stop it. It's so far ahead. And, I don't know how we can, we can do anything. What is the Ephesians verse? I can do anything through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. So I think when it's a lot easier for those of us who have a biblical belief system to believe that what we're doing is, if we're doing something right, then we're going to get some big guns in behind us, and big spiritual guns in behind us to help us. And there are a lot of ways that this is happening. You look what happened in Wagner County. I mean, who we can do these things. We just need to stand up and do them. And the day that we say, I just don't think I can, how are we going to that's the day that we don't, right?
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we formed the coalition. I mean, the way that we did it, if you need to get started in your county, the way that we did it is we started knocking on the doors of the people that lived around where this is going to be built. And then we collected phone numbers and addresses and email addresses, and we formed the coalition so that we could band together as neighbors so that it wasn't on one person. Now, more people do the brunt of the work than some, but that's okay. You still have to band together with your neighbors, but it starts with communicating with your neighbors. I've lived in the county for 12 years now, and I probably knew a handful of my neighbors before we started this fight. Now I know pretty much every one of my neighbors, and my daughters have made new friends because I didn't know that there were teenage girls living a mile and a half north of me because we don't go to school. And I didn't know that our neighbors a mile and a half north of me, 3 miles north of me, had teenage girls that could hang out with my teenage girls. So it will absolutely open doors for you, and you will get to know your neighbors, and your sense of community will grow.
And what do we always say on this program? Local is it. I mean, where your feet are planted is where you make the most difference.
Mm-hmm.
Local is always best. Local is always the starting point. So Lisa, Philippians 4:13, and then Gracie mentions a good one, Ephesians 6:13, and having done all stand. And that's true. I mean, we do all that we can. And then when we can't even do anything, you don't quit. You at least stand. I get goosebumps on that one. I love that one. That's a great verse. Because it's true. We're never going to get anywhere ever if we fall down, if we quit. If we quit, it's done.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, and as we're getting ready to close out, I'm going to pull in something. I think I can pull in something. I'll have to see if I can pull it in and make it.
Let me see. I got my glasses back on.
Hold on. It's going to take me just a second. I should have had it in my little thing, but I didn't have it there. All right. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to put together a convention for liberty-minded people. And this isn't bringing in expensive speakers from other places. This is a convention by the people, of the people, for the people. So we want to teach people how to knock doors, just like you did, how to mount a resistance force, how to read a bill, how to lobby a legislator, all of the things that we need to know. We want to be able to teach people who want to know. We want to have this conference. We'd like to have it at Ocana on November 13th through the 15th. But I'd like to have some sponsors before we jump off on this, because it's not going to be the cheapest thing to try to put together. And we'd like for everybody who would like to come to be able to come, because you may not have a lot of money, but by God, you have your feet. You have your social media channels. You have your ability to talk to your neighbors. So it's not about money. It's about what you're willing to do. So if you know of anybody who would like to sponsor this endeavor, we have sponsorships available. They're more like for advertising. And I've had people actually come to me just recently and say, well, if I do a personal sponsorship, can we have a table, or can we have some, is there some way to do that? And I don't know. I'm going to work on that, because this was just what I came up with. So I'll work on that. So do not be deterred. But if you're interested in sponsoring, or if you know of somebody who is a business that would like to sponsor this, for even the top tier, for $1,500 to get mentioned on this program every time we're on, that's some pretty decent advertising. Because don't forget, our lives don't go away. Our lives stay on our channels. So you might want to think about that. So if you've got a business, let them know, because what we need to do is we don't need to stop. If anything, we need to put on the gas, and this will be a great way to do it. So I hope you'll come together with me and help us get this put together so that we can do this the second weekend in November, right before the holiday season. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this kind of thing is, for years, so a lot of us in rope, used to go to a thing to St. Louis, to a thing called the Educational Policy Conference, and it was sponsored by a woman who was part of the Eagle Forum. And if you don't know the Eagle Forum, that was Phyllis Schlafly, who started the Eagle Forum to push back against the Equal Rights Amendment back in the 70s. So it's been around a while. And we used to go to this conference, and it was great. We'd be there 3 days. This was when we were fighting Common Core. One of the things that was really great about it, because people have said, well, how come we don't just have it for a day? We'll just get, it'd be so much cheaper to get have a church, and we'll do it. That's not what we need to do. We need to know each other. We need to network with each other. And if you go to a place for a day and all of your day, you're sitting and listening to speakers, you're not talking to the people around you. You're not getting to know people like NeAnne or people like Sandra Trawick or people like Storybook Farms or all of these groups in these other counties of Oklahoma who are going out and having to fight tooth and nail to preserve their areas. You need to network with these people. I've said this before. Julie and I were just talking about this the other day. If we had not gone to the Educational Policy Conference and we hadn't been able to network with these other people, I don't know that we would have been as successful repealing Common Core from state law. And it might not have changed a whole lot of things, but let me tell you, getting a repeal bill signed, find me the last one that was done. Find me the last repeal. I want to know. So if you don't think that networking is important, I hold up our example as a reason of why it is. And to be at a place like we're hoping to hold it at Okana, if I can get the money together before Thursday to really put down on this contract, I will sign it and we will do it. But it's going to be so important for us to be able to be together Thursday night, all day Friday and Saturday morning, so that we and be all in one place, so we have the chance to network and be together. So I really would ask you to consider that and consider sponsoring. Get with me. My email address is right there, jenny@rope2.org. Contact me if you're interested. We'll set something up. I just think going into this upcoming year where it's an election year, where we've got to change over some seats and get the people in establishment over the people's lives, that's what we need to do. So please, if you will do, and like Julia said, she just backed me up there. We made excellent contacts and big name support to stop Common Core when we did that. So that's what the whole idea behind doing this is. So if you would join with us, we would surely appreciate it. So just let me know. NeAnne, God bless you. Thank you so much for all you do for all of us. I mean, if you had not gone forward and said, you know what, this is not okay. You have set a standard for so many others to follow. And that's the thing. If you're in your county and you're like, I don't know what to do, contact NeAnne. Her address, NeAnne, what's your email address? Going to give out?
I'll type it in. Hold on. Let me give you my coalition email so that it goes there.
Yes, do that.
Coalition is gcccfund@gmail.com. So 3 C's, G 3 C's fund@gmail.com.
That's how you contact NeAnne. Contact NeAnne. She will help you. All right. Thank you so much again for being with us. We just appreciate you so much. And
thanks for having me.
Oh, we're always happy to have you. And thank you for coming back and sharing. And guys, don't forget to go to her website. Hold on. I was going to switch over here for a second. Oh, it's not switching forward. Okay. Garfield County Conservation Coalition. Oh, there it is. All right.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today. We so appreciate you. Had a great audience today. We just love you. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please, please share. And email me about the conference. And we'll see you again on Friday. On Friday, we've got, hold on. I always do this. On Friday, we have Molly Jenkins. I forgot Molly Jenkins.
Oh, yay.
That'll be a lot of fun to hear from, and maybe frustrating too, to hear from Molly about her first session as being a representative. And our Senator Shane Jett is going to be with us at 1:30. He's having to wait a little, not 1 this time, but 1:30. Senator Jett's going to come on with us and talk a little bit about what happened on the last day of the legislature and what his session was like. So please tune in for 2 good shows on Friday. Get in touch with NeAnne. Contribute, please, to their Garfield County Conservation Coalition and to their lawsuit against it's the city council, right? Or is
NextEra is a defendant. The county commissioners are a defendant, and the city of Enid.
There we go. All right. Help them out there. We will see you again Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay dry. And we'll see you on Friday. God bless you.